Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the SBI Securities Fundamental webinar. Today, we'll be discussing the sector which has been in focus ever since the GST cuts were announced, and that is the automobile sector. So, we'll cover both the auto OEMs as well as the auto ancillaries. What growth trends we are estimating going forward, and what are the current trends in the industry. So, starting with the presentation. Yeah, so first of all, starting with the key demand drivers for the sector. So, there has been two to three factors which have been responsible for this rally that we have seen in the auto sector. So, first was in the last budget of Feb 2025, we saw the government cutting the income tax rates as well as the slabs, making income up to 12 lakh fully tax exempt under the new regime. Uh, Again, we also had the RBI supporting the economy through 125 basis points of rate cut over the course of last 1 year. And finally, on 22nd September, we had the GST rates which were rationalized, making vehicles cheaper. So, as I have said, the first trigger was the income tax cut announced in the last budget, and which started materializing from April, May this year. That is FY26, wherein the new year people started getting salaries. The take home income increased because of the reduced tax rates, and that boosted the overall consumer sentiment. अगर इंटरेस्ट रेट कट्स की बात करें तो आरबीआई ने क्यूमुलेटिव टोटल 125 बेसिस पॉइंट्स का रेट कट दिया है। तो पहले एक ये ग्राफ देख के जान लेते हैं कि क्यों ऑटो सेक्टर में स्ट्रेस था प्रायर टू दिस। तो फेब 2022 में जब रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर शुरू हुआ, पोस्ट दैट वी सॉ क्रूड ऑयल प्राइसेस रैपिडली इंक्रीजिंग। हमने फर्टिलाइजर प्राइसेस, अदर मेटल प्राइसेस पे भी काफ़ी प्रेशर देखा था। एंड इसके चलते ओवरऑल व्हीकल प्राइसेस भी इंक्रीज करने पड़े थे। एंड मोर ओवर द गवर्नमेंट, द आरबीआई हैड टू इंक्रीज द इंटरेस्ट रेट्स to control the inflation, and that led to our benchmark interest rate increasing from 4% to about 6.5% over a period of 1 year. And then from Jan 23 to almost till Jan our Feb 2025, we were almost at that rate of 6.5%, which was considered high for sectors such as auto and real estate. But post that, as inflation came under control, as गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसीज काम करने लगी, इंटरेस्ट रेट्स हमने देखा है कि आरबीआई ने स्टेडीली डिक्रीज किया है ओवर द लास्ट 1 year. And even the crude oil prices, which have corrected about 20 to 25% from their peaks, that has also helped control inflation and bring down the interest rate. So these interest rates, if they stay around this same band, are likely to trigger consumption, especially of automobiles, जो कि काफी एक discretionary high ticket item रहता है. And moreover, banks and NBFCs also have now started aggressively providing the loans, which will benefit the overall sector. Coming to the GST benefit. So First of all, the GST was reduced for small cars as well as for motorcycles up to 350 cc. So, moving from 28 to 18%, straight away a 10% benefit, and which actually led to vehicle prices decreasing by almost 15 to 20 or even 25% in some cases. Mid and large cars maybe benefit है, इवन दो जीएसटी रेट आपका 28 to 40% तक गया, बट ओवरऑल अगर आप देखें बिफोर दिस 28% जीएसटी पे एडिशनल कॉम्पेंसेशन सेस लगता था, जिससे व्हीकल के इफेक्टिव रेट, the effective GST rate on vehicles was between 42 to 50%. अब ये सेस जीएसटी में सबस्यूम होके एक फ्लैट रेट है 40%. तो इसके चलते काफी मिड एंड स्मॉल, मिड एंड लार्ज कार्स में भी प्राइस बेनिफिट देखा गया है, प्राइस रिडक्शन हुआ है, एंड दैट हैज बूस्टेड द ओवरऑल सेंटिमेंट इन द इंडस्ट्री. इलेक्ट्रिक कार्स एंड टू व्हीलर्स पे अनचेंज्ड है, and two wheelers maybe 28 to 18%. That's a big difference. For trucks, buses and ambulances, this movement in the rate from 28 to 18%, along with the improvement in the economy, has meant that the CV demand is expected to stay strong. We'll discuss that later on. And tractors and farm equipment, there has been a big saving, as the GST rate has moved from the 18 and 12% band to the 5% band. Moreover, components भी अब 28 to 18% में move किए हैं, तो overall the input materials for the companies also, the prices of that have gone down. Moving on to the next demand driver, so which is urbanization, which is increasing the proportion of the middle class in the overall economy. Spending power बढ़ रही है, ये एक long term structural trend है, but more nonetheless supports the overall premiumization theme in the auto sector. So starting now with the domestic passenger vehicle industry. So as we can see, the passenger vehicle industry post COVID has been growing. There was some amount of degrowth in the last year because of high vehicle prices, the interest rates not being favorable. But again, इस साल देखें तो post the GST cut, we have seen a strong demand recovery. And while the industry will keep trending on, we'll see the individual car companies actually doing better. Exports also has been picking up. So previously only small cars used to get exported from India. However, अब देखें तो SUVs भी export होने लगी है. Mahindra and Mahindra and Tata Motors both have entered the markets of Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. इवन मारुति सुजुकी जो पहले स्मॉल कार्स ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट करता था, अब पेरेंट सुजुकी के मार्केट्स में मारुति सुजुकी सप्लाइंग दीज एसयूवीज टू यूरोप, टू जापान. So overall, the export percentage going forward is going to go up, and some companies with such as Honda cars and Renault, Nissan, the companies which are not that strong in the domestic market, they still are expanding in India to identify India as an export base. And even Hyundai India also is focusing more on exports. So going forward, the export picture for the passenger vehicle industry also looks strong. So, just to compare the rate of growth between the wholesales as well as the retail sales. So, wholesale implies that जब आपकी गाड़ी फैक्ट्री से डीलर तक आती है, so that is recorded as wholesale in the company's sales. While retail sales are when you buy the car, when the car gets registered at the RTO and you take delivery, that is the retail sales. Now in FY 21, 22, 23, जैसे कि आप देख रहे हैं, there would be some large gap in these two numbers. बट अगेन इस टाइम पे इन इस टाइम पीरियड में many states were not on the वाहन portal, which is the retail sales portal. And as some of these states have now gotten onboarded, with the exception of Telangana, which is not yet on the Vahan portal, all the rest of the states in India are on this portal now, and we have seen the gap narrow down. If you see 9 months FY26, that is April to the December period, the retail sales are almost neck to neck with the wholesales. And इसका सिग्निफिकेंस ये भी है कि जो चैनल इन्वेंट्री है डीलर के पास, जो गाड़ियां शोरूम में रहती है, उसका अब परसेंटेज कम हुआ है. पीपल आर बाइंग कार्स एंड द सप्लाई चेन हैज नैरोड डाउन. So this is just a quarterly trend. Yeah, so post September, as we can see, the growth rate has really picked up. So October, November, December, both wholesales as well as retail sales have been strong for the passenger vehicle industry. And going forward, also with the good monsoon and the strong rural sentiment as well as strong urban sentiment, Q4 and Q1 are expected to be relatively strong. तो पैसेंजर व्हीकल इंडस्ट्री में अगर हम देखें इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्रीमियमाइजेशन, so previously it used to be more of small cars, which is what is called hatchbacks, and SUVs were considered a rich car. But now as loans are available, people's aspirations have changed. जैसे हमने पहले के ग्राफ में देखा कि द साइज ऑफ मिडिल क्लास इज आल्सो एक्सपांडिंग. We have seen that SUVs are starting to gain market share. तो लास्ट 2 साल की बात करें तो FY24 में 51% था. लास्ट ईयर हमने देखा कि ये शेयर ऑलमोस्ट 5% का शेयर बढ़ा के 56% पे आ गया ऑफ SUVs. And going forward by FY30, it is expected to touch almost 30%, while the small car segment is expected to reduce. अगेन पोस्ट जीएसटी हमने देखा है कि स्मॉल कार्स में एक रिवाइवल आया है. तो लास्ट 3 months हैव बीन वेरी गुड फॉर द स्मॉल कार इंडस्ट्री, स्पेशली Maruti Suzuki, which is by far the leader in this segment. But overall, both small cars as well as SUVs should continue to do well. अगर इंडस्ट्री के मार्केट शेयर की बात करें तो मारुति सुजुकी, बिकॉज ऑफ इट्स लार्ज प्रेजेंस इन द स्मॉल कार सेगमेंट, is by far the market leader at almost 40% of the industry, and the company has maintained its market share despite intense competition. बाकी सेकंड, थर्ड एंड फोर्थ प्लेयर्स की बात करें तो M&M हैज गेन्ड शेयर. अगेन टाटा मोटर्स एंड Hyundai इंडिया, ये तीन कंपनियां के मार्केट शेयर आर between 12 to 14%, and all three are competing intensely for that second number spot. बाकी दूसरी कंपनीज की बात करें जैसे टोयोटा, किया, उनके वॉल्यूम्स रिलेटिवली कम रहते हैं, बट if you see the average price of these cars between 15 to 20 or even 25 lakh, the revenue wise these companies are large and even profitable. If you look at the individual contribution of popular models to the companies, so if you see Maruti Suzuki has a fairly diversified portfolio where both small cars as well as SUVs contribute to the overall sales. So Brezza contributes 10% to overall Maruti's domestic sales. Ertiga, Fronx, Desire. So there is no specific dependence on one model. जबकि Hyundai India की बात करें तो it is Creta is almost 36% of the company's total volumes. Hyundai, the Venue, which is the compact SUV, that is 20%. So you can say almost 50 or even more 60% of the volumes are coming from just two to three models. Similarly, for Tata Motors, again, Nexon is a big player. So 35% of the volumes come from Nexon. Punch, which is the compact SUV and competitor of Hyundai's Venue, that contributes 30% to the volumes, while the other are relatively smaller volume models. So again, Tata Motors passenger vehicle, more or less, the growth remains dependent on these two models. M&M Scorpio contributes 28%, Bolero is 17%. These both models are strong in the rural regions as well, while the new age models, which have helped the company gain market share, so XUV 700 12%, XUV 3XO is 16%. तो इसके चलते एमएनएम ने अर्बन मार्केट में सिटीज में भी मार्केट शेयर गेन किया है. फ्यूल वाइज अगर बात करें तो पैसेंजर व्हीकल्स, बेसिकली देर आर फाइव टाइप्स ऑफ व्हीकल्स. One which runs on petrol, then there is the diesel option, as well as the alternate fuels which are more environment friendly, so CNG hybrid, as well as the electric powertrains. So the if you see across the industry now, this is the FY25 last year's sales data, where Maruti has completely exited the diesel segment, and it's extremely strong in the CNG segment, with almost one third of its volumes coming from the CNG segment. Whereas Hyundai and M&M depend on the diesel, their heavyweight SUVs perform well more on the diesel front. So M&M, almost 77% of the volumes are on diesel. Hyundai also has about 18%. But if if you see Tata Motors, they have focused more on the electric segment, where almost 11% of their volumes are now coming from the electric segment. CNG, maybe if you see Maruti, Hyundai, and Tata, all three are strong. And this is because more or less the small cars, small to mid-size cars, are where the CNG is more available. Hybrids, the Japanese OEMs, that is Toyota, Honda, and Maruti Suzuki, have dominated. And Toyota, through its Innova as well as Hyrider, which are very strong hybrid models. So Toyota almost has 25% of its volumes coming from the hybrid segment. Hybrid implies that the car runs both on petrol as well as electric, and so depending on the traffic conditions, the car automatically switches between the engine, petrol engine, as well as the electric battery, which is more fuel economical. But again, the गाड़ी भी आपकी उतनी महंगी हो जाती है. The upfront cost is higher. तो प्राइस वाइज अगर सेगमेंट किया जाए इंडस्ट्री को, तो 5 to 10 lakh सेगमेंट विच हैज बिकम अट्रैक्टिव पोस्ट द जीएसटी cuts. So Maruti Suzuki is a dominant player in this segment. It has multiple models. It has even in the sub 5 lakh segment, company is present in that segment. Tata Motors and Hyundai both have models available in this segment. 10 to 15 lakh segment is where bulk of the competition is. So Maruti ki Brezza, Jimny, Hyundai's compact SUV Venue, M&M's 3XO has done well in that segment, and is even going to launch an EV version of that in the coming months. Tata Motors has plenty of vehicles available in this segment, and which has also helped the company to gain market share. If we look at the 15 to 20 lakh segment, again, M&M, Tata Motors, Hyundai, Maruti Suzuki dominate this segment as well. And EVs की बात करें तो VinFast, which has entered India just in September, started selling its vehicles in September. But that again has received a good response. VinFast की electric cars have crossed the 1,000 units sales mark in just 4 months. So the growth for the company has been pretty good. And then in the higher range segment, that is 20 lakh and above, is where the Toyota, as well as companies like M&M, as well as JSW MG dominates with their premium models. So, since we have discussed the electric segment in the passenger vehicle segment, so overall penetration, however, still remains low. So, if last 2 3 years, we have seen a pickup in the share of electric vehicles in the overall passenger vehicle sales in India. Starting में there were only limited players with Tata Motors, which was the first successful entrant in this segment. Then we saw MG doing well with the launch of its Comet, which is a small electric car. And last year we saw M&M launching its two EVs. So that overall has helped the industry grow. However, concerns remain on the charging infrastructure as well as the overall price of the vehicle. तो दो गाड़ियाँ अगर सेम मॉडल की आप कोई भी कंपनी की ले, there is almost a 35 to 50% difference in the starting price of a normal petrol vehicle and a electric vehicle of the same model. So people are still reluctant because of the higher price. But now going ahead in next 1 to 2 years, many electric cars in the 10 to 15 lakh segment are expected to get launched, and which will help broaden the electric vehicle industry in the passenger vehicle segment. तो ईवीज में अगर मार्केट शेयर की बात करें तो टाटा मोटर्स इज द डोमिनेंट प्लेयर. पहले कंपिटिटर्स भी कम थे. And MG, if you see, was 21% last year in August, and it almost Tata Motors and MG came neck to neck as MG's Comet was very successful. But then sales have tapered off for that car after a few initial months, and Tata Motors has again regained the market leadership. M&M prior to the two electric vehicles had a 5% market share, but that has quickly increased to almost 21%. Uh, Other players such as Hyundai with just one model Creta, and Maruti Suzuki has launched the e-Vitara, which will start selling this year and should start contributing to the sales. So this was about the passenger vehicle segment. So moving now to the two-wheeler industry, which also has been growing pretty strong with rural sentiment also appearing strong. So the growth since the COVID years has been pretty गुड फॉर टू व्हीलर्स. एंड एक्सपोर्ट्स की अगर बात करें तो एक्सपोर्ट्स में FY 22 एंड 23, 2 3 साल पहले देर वॉज प्रेशर ऑन दी एक्सपोर्ट्स because key export market Africa as well as Sri Lanka were not doing well because of multiple domestic issues in their countries. बट अगर हम अब देखें तो अफ्रीका एंड श्रीलंका हैव रिकवर्ड. लैटिन अमेरिका also is emerging as a key export market for India's two wheelers. So across OEMs, Hero MotoCorp, TVS Motor, Bajaj Auto, all three companies, the exports are doing well for these companies. तो इसमें the comparison between wholesales as well as retail, that is the domestic sales, again similar to passenger vehicles, last 9 months में, that is 9 months FY 26, the sales are almost neck to neck. So the channel inventory continues to be lower, and that implies that Q3 and Q4 both are expected to be strong for most of the OEM companies on the volume front. क्वार्टरली रेट भी अगर हम देखें तो पोस्ट द जीएसटी कट द लास्ट 3 months हैव सीन हेल्दी ग्रोथ. इवन डिसम्बर विच is a seasonally weak month, YOY the sales grew 40% on the wholesale front. Retail sales थोड़े weak थे in December, in terms of the growth. But again, the festive season, the harvest festival, which starts today, that is expected to increase the retail sales in the coming months. Now again in टू व्हीलर इंडस्ट्री अगर हम देखें तो स्कूटर सेगमेंट का शेयर बढ़ रहा है. स्कूटर्स आर relatively easier to ride in the urban areas, congested areas, and even the women as customers have emerged as major buyers of scooters. The electric segment also, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स टू व्हीलर में अभी तक जो भी सक्सेसफुल मॉडल्स हैं वो सब स्कूटर्स के हैं. मोटरसाइकिल में देर आर स्टिल नॉट many players in the motorcycle electric segment, but scooters have helped the industry to grow further. एंड प्रीमियमाइजेशन की बात करें तो सिमिलर टू पैसेंजर व्हीकल्स जैसे स्मॉल कार से एसयूवीज की तरफ शिफ्ट हुआ है. तो इवन इन टू व्हीलर्स वी हैव सीन कि जो ट्रेडिशनल मोटरसाइकिल्स थे सब 110 सीसी इंजन के, डोमिनेटेड बाय हीरो स्प्लेंडर, वो पूरा इंडस्ट्री इटसेल्फ डिक्लाइन किया है. तो 62% जो शेयर था इस सेगमेंट का, दैट हैज नाउ रिड्यूस टू 46% इन FY25. Whereas आपके heavier bikes, the ones between 110 to 125 cc and 125 cc and above, the share of those vehicles have increased, which have benefited TVS Motors. Hero Moto also has launched new models in this segment. मार्केट शेयर की बात करें तो हीरो मोटो remains the largest player in this segment. However, of late it has been reporting volatile numbers, and Honda, which is the second highest market share player, that has given it a tough competition. Hero Motocorp, the Splendor segment, as I highlighted, has seen relatively lower growth. But again, Honda is pretty dominant in the scooter segment. TVS Motors ने भी almost last 1.5 साल में almost 3 to 4% market share gain किया है. And Royal Enfield, even though the volume market share is just 6%, however, the premium bikes 1 lakh, 2 lakhs and above के जो bikes रहते हैं, that continues to do well. इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन की बात करें तो टू व्हीलर्स में द इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन हैज बीन हायर, सो इट हैज टच 6% in last year. The new age OEMs such as Ola Electric and Ather have also helped grow this industry, create awareness for the electric scooters. And companies such as the traditional OEMs, TVS, Bajaj Auto, and Hero Motocorp also have launched their own electric scooters. तो मार्केट शेयर की बात करें तो ओला इलेक्ट्रिक, विच वाज द डोमिनेंट प्लेयर, पहले काफ़ी ज़्यादा प्लेयर्स नहीं थे इन द इलेक्ट्रिक टू व्हीलर सेगमेंट. तो it had a dominant market share of 31% in August 24. And product quality, there were issues with product quality, with the sales, after sales, the distribution network, and we have seen the sales steadily decline for Ola Electric, and it has now reached 9%. Whereas TVS, Hero Motocorp, Bajaj Auto all have expanded their distribution network. Product quality it has been good, and these companies have expanded their market share. And Ather Energy also stands out, although still loss making. However, volume wise the company has done well. कमर्शियल व्हीकल्स की तरफ चलते हैं. तो कमर्शियल व्हीकल्स आर बेसिकली योर व्हीकल्स विच आर यूज्ड टू ट्रांसपोर्ट गुड्स as well as the passengers where buses are involved. So कमर्शियल सेल्स का मंथली सेल्स ट्रेंड अगर देखें, दीज आर द रिटेल सेल्स जो आरटीओ में व्हीकल्स रजिस्टर होते हैं. पोस्ट जीएसटी कट वी हैव सीन डिमांड पिकिंग अप, एंड इसमें एक पेंट अप डिमांड ये भी है कि लास्ट पिछले काफी सालों में as the truck prices have increased and the demand hasn't increased that much, people were using the older trucks. बट अभी अगर आप देखें तो रिप्लेसमेंट साइकिल काफी ऊंचा है, एंड गोइंग फॉरवर्ड the transport operators are expected to buy the new trucks which give them better fuel efficiency as well as help improve their overall turnaround time. So the CV cycle we feel has just started, and FY27 is expected to be a bumper year for CV sales if the economy expands at the same 7 to 8% rate. So, if we look at the market share, so again, Tata Motors dominates the commercial vehicle segment because of its large presence in the LCV segment. M&M and Ashok Leyland also are strong players. M&M actually is the market leader in the LCV segment, जो 2 to 3.5 ton के small tempos होते हैं for intra-city delivery, while Tata Motors and Ashok Leyland are more present in the heavy trucks and the heavy buses segment. महिंद्रा एंड महिंद्रा ने रिसेंटली SML Isuzu एक्वायर किया है, जिससे कंपनी का प्रेजेंस बढ़ेगा इन दी मीडियम ट्रक एंड बस सेगमेंट, द स्कूल बस सेगमेंट एंड ऑल. So overall, industry four to five players से ही dominated है, which is your Tata Motors, M&M, Ashok Leyland, Volvo Eicher Commercial Vehicles, which comes under the listed entity Eicher Motors, and there is Daimler India, which is the unlisted player. So this was about the auto OEMs. So when we look at the auto OEMs, the growth more or less will be along the industry growth rate. But अगर हम auto ancillary की बात करें तो the outlook for the sector appears very bright. So first of all is the industry growth. The industry will grow, so the demand for the components will increase. But कंपनीज जो मार्केट शेयर गेन करेगी, तो लॉट ऑफ कंपोनेंट्स वेर प्रीवियसली इंपोर्टेड इनटू इंडिया, बट नाउ रूपी डेप्रिशिएट हो रहा है. गवर्नमेंट का फोकस है ऑन डोमेस्टिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग. योर कार्स शुड हैव मोर डोमेस्टिक कंपोनेंट्स. तो एक मार्केट शेयर गेन भी कर रहे हैं इन दी ऑटो एंसिलरी कंपनीज. So some of the auto ancillary companies which we feel should do well in this current auto upcycle. We are focusing more on the domestic focus auto ancillaries because globally the auto industry is still weak, and there are a lot of challenges with respect to tariffs. The European auto industry not doing well. तो हम focus रखेंगे domestic Indian market पे, and these are some of the companies. So Uno Minda is by far the largest player. Its presence is across both two-wheelers and passenger vehicles. The company supplies switches, lightings, the wheels, and the other casted components, seats, and it is a major supplier to Maruti Suzuki. Endurance Technologies is another major supplier to the two-wheeler industry. तो सस्पेंशन हो गया, आपका डिस्क ब्रेक, एलॉय व्हील्स, इन सब सेगमेंट्स में कंपनी प्रेजेंट है. एंड मेजर कस्टमर फॉर दिस कंपनी हैज बीन बजाज ऑटो, बट इट इज एक्सपांडिंग इनटू हीरो मोटोकॉर्प. TVS and Royal Enfield and Ather Energy are its major customers as well. And company is also expanding into the passenger vehicle segment. Tenneco Clean Air India, again a recent listing, but has a very good presence in the passenger vehicle suspension segment, where it gets 65% of its revenue, and commercial vehicle 21% revenue, but it's again present in the exhaust system, जो emission control system होता है, company उसमें present है. Top 7 passenger vehicle OEMs in India are the company's customers, and top 5 commercial vehicle OEMs. So company is practically present across all the industry and is expected to do well in the next couple of years. Belrise Industries again has been a recent listing. It basically manufactures the chassis, जो टू व्हीलर का मेन बॉडी होता है, the metal parts for that, as well as polymer components and the suspension. Bajaj Auto is company का major client है, but again company is expanding into Hero MotoCorp, TVS Motor, Ashok Leyland. Company also supplies a few metal components to Maruti Suzuki as well as JLR. Mindacop, again a majorly two-wheeler player. It supplies the wiring harness, the locks, the dashboards, which are the instrument cluster, the speedometers, and has a very good client base as well. Lumax Auto Technologies is another good company. We have a coverage on the company, and the stock has given healthy returns. It's present largely in the passenger vehicle segment. Mahindra and Mahindra contributes almost 30% of the company's revenue. कंपनी इंटीरियर्स बनाती है गाड़ी की, जो आपका डैशबोर्ड रहता है, दी प्लास्टिक पार्ट्स, along with the other door plastic parts as well. And it has recently also entered into the CNG fuel segment. So where it has got customers like Maruti Suzuki as well as Tata Motors. ASK Automotive is another major player with Hero Moto as its a large customer. Company brakes banati hai, as well as aluminum components along with wheels. So it's a major two-wheeler player again. Varroc Engineering and Precol also are doing well. Precol has been under our coverage now. The company primarily ये speedometers and dashboard बनाती है for largely two wheelers, and is now expanding into the passenger vehicle segment. Coming to the other major players, so FEM Industries again is into the lighting segment, so gets almost practically all of its revenue from the lighting segment. ये company भी two wheeler focused है, but now it is expanding into the passenger vehicle segment. So recently has won orders from M&M for it, the interior lighting as well as the exterior lighting. Supros, again a major AC manufacturer with Maruti Suzuki and M&M as its major customers, and with ACs becoming compulsory in the trucks, that again is likely to support growth. Lumax Industries, again a lighting player with almost 50% of its future order book coming from the from Maruti Suzuki. So with Maruti Suzuki sales doing well, Lumax Industries too should benefit. And Sandhar Technologies, which is another major two-wheeler player, manufacturing locks, other die casting products, as well as the mirrors for two-wheeler companies. पिछले 2-3 साल में ऑटो एंसिलरी सेगमेंट को देखें तो देर हैज़ बीन अ लॉट ऑफ कंसोलिडेशन. तो कंपनीज हैव एक्वायर्ड स्मॉलर कंपनीज to expand the overall product portfolio. So SGS Enterprises that has acquired 2 to 3 companies. We have seen Shriram Pistons, Lumax Autotech again acquiring a company which helped it to gain M&M as a major customer. क्राफ्ट्समैन ऑटो, सुप्राजीत इंजीनियरिंग ने स्ट्रेस्ड एसेट्स एक्वायर किए इन जर्मनी टू एक्सपैंड कैपेसिटी. So overall acquisition has been acquisition activity has been very strong in the industry. Gabriel India again has will be taking its group companies into the company that is expected to get operational in April 2026 most probably. So that again will help the company expand its product portfolio. So valuations we'll just compare the valuations and the growth outlook for the companies. So auto OEMs, that is the passenger vehicle segment, M&M and Maruti Suzuki continue to be the leaders both the companies are expected to do well going ahead and stand as our preferred picks in this segment. Hyundai India also should do well, but that could test a bit of investors' patience as its overall strategy is gradually playing out. कंपनी का दूसरा प्लांट भी अब स्टार्ट हो गया है, तो next 2 to 3 years volume growth should be healthy in this segment as well. Tata Motors passenger vehicle is a bit of a challenge now. The domestic sales continue to do well for the company, but अगर हम overall company perspective से देखें तो Jaguar Land Rover, that is the UK luxury car maker, that contributes almost 80% to the company's revenue and profitability, and that has been a drag in the last couple of years, which has dragged the overall stock performance also lower. uh, September में जो cyber incident हुआ, post that there was no production for almost 2 to 3 months, and now gradually the sales, the production is picking up. But again, the outlook for this year, that is FY26 for JLR, continues to remain weak. टू व्हीलर्स की बात करें तो टीवीएस मोटर has been doing very well. It's relatively expensive on the valuation side, but however, the company has successfully expanded its earnings as well as its margins. Bajaj Auto is more of a export focused player, has been facing a bit of challenges in the domestic market. Aisha Motors continues to do well. Uh, all these four companies will also benefit from the rupee depreciation. तो आपका रूपी जैसे वीकन होता है, इनके एक्सपोर्ट रियलाइजेशन बढ़ जाते हैं, जो ओवरऑल मार्जिन्स को सपोर्ट करेंगे. So two wheeler again we remain positive on TVS Motor as well as Aisha Motors. Coming to the commercial vehicle segment, so both Tata Motors, which is the recently demerged arm, as well as Ashok Leyland are expected to do well as the industry grows. Both should outperform the industry growth as well, and margin expansion should also support earnings growth. Coming to some of the auto ancillary players, so Uno Minda will keep giving that steady earnings growth of about 20 to 25% annually. The other players also are expected to do well. Bellrise Industries is again one of the major companies where you are going to see market share expansion. तो कंपनी ने मारुति सुजुकी में प्रेजेंस लिया है थ्रू एन एक्विजिशन, एंड दैट विल आल्सो स्टार्ट कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू द कंपनीज ग्रोथ. टीवीएस मोटर, रॉयल एनफील्ड और आइशर मोटर्स के लिए डेडिकेटेड प्लांट सेटअप किए हैं विच हैव स्टार्टेड and which will start contributing to the revenue. So Bellrise Industries again remains a strong pick. Lumax Auto Technologies has been under our coverage, and the company continues to do well with M&M going to launch multiple models this year. Again, the company should see benefit of that. Again, Precall also remains a strong player in the two-wheeler industry. कंपनी ने सुंदरम ऑटो कंपोनेंट्स का एक एक्विजिशन किया है which expands the company's customer base as well as the product portfolio. So that again should drive growth. And as the two-wheeler industry also grows, Varroc Engineering, PM Industries, Lumax Industries, Sandhar Technologies are also expected to do well. Subros also looking purely at the numbers from M&M as well as Maruti, as well as the commercial vehicle sales volume in Q3 should report healthy volume and sales growth. The only concern in terms of the auto industry profitability currently is that commodity prices काफी sharply increase हुए हैं in the last couple of weeks. So we have seen copper prices up almost 20 to 25% within a few weeks. Aluminum prices भी बढ़ के आए हैं. the platinum and palladium which are used in the emission systems, उनके prices भी काफी बढ़े हैं, along with the rupee depreciation. So that overall could increase the cost structure in the near term. तो near term में margin impact हो सकती है mostly in Q4 as suppliers pass on the higher cost of materials to the OEM players. So Q4 there could be some pressure on margins, but overall if you see volume growth wise, if the volume growth remains strong, the operating leverage will kick in, and that overall will reduce this negative impact of higher raw material cost. So we'll move we'll move on to the Q&A. This was all about the overview of the auto sector. So if there are any questions, please restrict them to the auto sector, as that has been the today's topic. So kindly post your questions in the chat box, and we'll take them up one by one. So there's one question from Sarthak about E20 affecting the choice. So yes, so E20 is 20% ethanol and 80% petrol. Now that again is a debatable issue, as many companies, the car companies themselves have said that the overall impact on mileage hasn't been that much that it will affect the overall performance of the vehicle. However, there has been some talk about future standards of ethanol blending being put on the back burner for now. But again, these are policy issues more than choice between the company and the customers. Overall, across the board, whether it is petrol, diesel, CNG, or electric, the sales have been very strong in the last couple of months. Coming to the second question on Tata Motors passenger vehicle. So as I answered, the company is facing challenge on the JLR front, while the domestic business continues to do well, and is reporting strong sales numbers. Uh, till the JLR picture doesn't get cleared, that is the performance of the company in the developed markets of Europe and US, and the company also has been facing challenges in China. Till those are not sorted out, the overall performance of the company will be a drag. If there are any questions, kindly post it in the box. So there is a question from Harish, as what is the market share of Tata Motors in EV? So as we highlighted in the presentation, currently it varies between 40 to 42% currently. It is by far the market leader, has multiple models. So from Nexon to Punch to the Curve EV, Harrier EV, which was launched last year. And now this year, there is even the Safari and the Sierra, which will see their electric versions making their debut. So overall, company is present across small car, the sedan segment, where it mainly sells to the cabs uh, uh, and the taxis, as well as it's present in the SUV segment as well. So overall, company continues to do well. Last year, in between, there was a drop in sales, but again now, company has been doing pretty well. And by far, barring one or two models, all the models of Tata Motors EV are PLI compliant. So company is receiving the PLI benefit for that as well. So there is one question on Maruti, whether the company is facing a temporary demand slowdown, or is there any structural margin or market share risk. So yes, one reason behind the correction, apart from the overall market correction, has been that, as I highlighted, that the metal prices have gone up pretty sharply, and that will impact the margins in the coming quarter. Company may take a price hike. We still don't know the extent of the price hikes to offset this. Some companies have taken price hikes in Jan, but looking at the demand scenario, there could be price hikes in April as well. And overall, the margin band for Maruti remains pretty tight in that 9 to 10% band. But however, higher share of SUVs, higher share of premium vehicles, and overall higher production should help company offset the margin pressure. Also, there is one question from Ravi Chaudhary as which vehicles will be the best to perform well in terms of each sector. So, are you asking about the vehicles or about the companies? Because vehicles across the board, all the segments currently are doing well. So even if you see the commercial vehicle segment, all three segments, that is LCVs, the heavy trucks, that is MHCVs, as well as buses, are seeing strong demand. Even in two wheelers, we are seeing both motorcycles and scooters do well. And even in passenger vehicles, because of this GST cut, the small car segment, which was struggling, उसने भी काफी अच्छा किया है, as well as SUVs continue to be strong. Yeah, so company wise, as I highlighted, I think M&M and Maruti from the passenger vehicle segment, TVS Motor and Eicher Motors from the two-wheeler segment. Even Bajaj Auto should benefit from this rupee depreciation. The overall export realization भी बढ़कर आएंगे. And in the CV segment, Ashok Leyland and Tata Motors remain our top picks. Both the companies have a very good presence across the entire portfolio, and that should do well. A question on Hyundai India as to why the company is facing downside recently. So it has been a bit of a laggard. So post GST cut, हमने देखा कि October, November the sales numbers were not that good. Even December was weak. Company has been focusing more on the export segment, जिससे उसका margin भी Hyundai का margin अगर आप देखें तो around 14%. Higher share of exports helps it to मेंटेन द मार्जिन्स. कंपनी अगर हम देखें तो वॉल्यूम पे ज्यादा फोकस नहीं करती है. इट इज मोर फोकस्ड ऑन दी रेवेन्यू ग्रोथ एज वेल एज दी मार्जिन इम्प्रूवमेंट. एंड द कंपनी के प्रोडक्ट्स भी अगर हम देखें तो रिलेटिवली प्रीमियम सेगमेंट में है, अर्बनाइज्ड सेगमेंट में है. बट अगर हम दिसंबर के रिटेल सेल्स देखें तो Hyundai इंडिया के दिसंबर रिटेल सेल्स में काफी अच्छा ग्रोथ था, वेराज होलसेल्स में नहीं था. तो हो सकता है कि आगे जाके इन जैन फेब दी होलसेल्स शुड पिकअप. कंपनी ने अभी रिसेंटली नया प्लांट पुणे में ओपन किया है, तो दैट अगेन शुड रैंप अप एंड स्टार्ट कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू दी वॉल्यूम्स. Yeah. So there is one question on what are the projections of market share of domestic companies as Chinese car brands start entering the EV market. So a good question. So EVs, if you see the Chinese players, the way they have dominated the European industry, that is unlikely to happen here. एक तो government ने has put up a strict anti-dumping duties. The import duties are very high, एंड दूसरा है कि दी charging infrastructure as well as the overall setup has still not been done. Companies like BYD, which are strong, which is the only Chinese company yet to be successful in India, वो import करती है from China. The cars are not made in India, and so when they attract that high duty of almost 40 to 50%, the cars are also expensive. दूसरे players की बात करें तो provided any Chinese company sets up its manufacturing facility in India, uh, which will again take 2 to 3 years post all the approvals, whatever comes about. Then they can compete in this segment. Otherwise, your cars are going to get priced upwards of 30 and 40 lakh. Uh, if you see Winfast, which is a Vietnam-based company, उन्होंने तमिलनाडु में plant setup किया है. They are manufacturing locally, and so in that segment they have priced their cars in the 18 to 25 lakh segment and have received good success. So yes, competition is there. Even within the Indian players there is a lot of competition. So overall it will remain a price sensitive market as companies try to gain market share. But overall, Indian players, especially M&M and Tata Motors, and with Maruti launching its e-Vitara, should be dominating the market share at least in the next couple of years. Also, a question on any domestic EV manufacturers investing in solid state battery. So, technology wise, Indian companies are still dependent on the Chinese technologies, especially the battery technologies. Hyundai is developing. Actually, the lithium ion cells are the key raw material, and once the auto ancillary companies start manufacturing them in India, only then will we see localization increase. As regards to the solid state battery, it's still a nascent technology. Once it gets successful in China and the other markets, we could see adoption of that in India. But at least in the near term, or from a auto investment perspective term, I don't think this will be an issue. There's one question on auto ancillary stocks like Uno Minda, Subros, and Gabriel. So Uno Minda, among the auto ancillaries, it's a large cap stock, and with a healthy presence across both two-wheelers and passenger vehicles, the company is equally diversified. It has good presence with Maruti Suzuki, and with multiple plants coming up for expansion or have expanded. With the industry overall doing well, Uno Minda should also benefit. However, relative to valuation, if you see, then upside आपकी उतनी 12 to 15% में cap रह सकती है. There won't be that great an upside, but with the industry doing well, Uno Minda should also do well. Subros, there has been a challenge. First of all, again, because it manufactures ACs, copper is a critical component, and with copper prices having increased rapidly, there could be some pressure on margins. But again, कितने ACs Q3 and Q4 में कंपनी बेचती है उस पर भी डिपेंड करेगा. If the actual volume of ACs and the realization is enough to offset the increase in the copper price, the impact of the higher copper price, overall, we feel the company will be able to ride out. Maruti Suzuki, M&M, and the other commercial vehicle players are its major customers. And with overall companies doing well, the industry doing well, the overall Supra should also play out positively in this space. Coming to Gabriel, so Gabriel historically has been a suspension manufacturing company with a healthy presence in two-wheelers and SUVs in particular. Company अब 3 acquisition किए है within the group, within the Anand group, wherein it will acquire one company which manufactures lubricants. Then we'll have smaller stakes in other two companies which are into more of passenger vehicle and other commercial vehicle components. So once that gets integrated into this company, the growth rate for this company will be different. So currently, looking purely at the valuation and the growth, company looks attractive. However, wait out for the integration of the acquisitions, because that again will play out over the next 1 or 2 quarters. There is one question on what about rare earth metals and magnets. So currently, if you see rare earth mineral processing or even magnet manufacturing, uh, the capacities in India are not that much. And Sona BLW is a dominant player as it manufactures the motors. Company has also developed a magnetless motor which was available, but cost wise and performance wise, it was not enough to um, replace the permanent magnets, especially in higher power applications like cars and the trucks. So overall, this is still a long-term structural story. The rare earth metals and magnets. You could see some policies also getting announced in this budget, and more auto ancillary players then coming out to set up capacities next year. However, it's not a medium term story as well. This is more of a technology play, and which will play out over the next couple of years. Last question will be taking on Shriram Pistons. So yes, Shriram Pistons also, if you see, has made many acquisitions in the recent past. Previously, it used to manufacture the engine components such as the pistons and the other components which go into the engine. But company has made 2 to 3 acquisitions. So one company where they are manufacturing the EV motors, then other two companies they are into the plastics segment, which has helped the company expand and diversify its portfolio. And recently also in December we saw company rallying post the acquisition of Grupo, a Spanish company which was present in India, and they wanted to sell. And Shriram Pistons again acquired that company that also is into the plastic component segment. So company looks very attractive at these levels as well, looking at the growth. And with European Union also doing away with the auto that is they were rigid on that post 2035 only electric vehicles should be sold in Europe. However, that has been now put away. So your petrol and diesel engine cars will continue to get sold, and that overall will benefit engine component players such as Shriram Pistons as well. So last question we'll take on the battery manufacturing stocks. So apart from Exide and Amara Raja, there are not any pure play battery manufacturer stocks in India. Uh, you can play that theme through the recycling theme as well, where stocks such as Gravita India are there into the recycling segment. However, pure play, Exide and Amara Raja also, the lithium ion cells business, by the way, still to start contributing to revenues. Currently, they are more into the assembly of the lithium ion packs, which go into the telecom segment, as well as the traditional lead acid batteries. So that again is a relatively highly competitive business, and where raw material prices also play a role. But apart from that, on this lithium ion battery, there are no major players. So thank you viewers for tuning in, and we'll be bringing up more webinars. Next week we'll have one on the GLP theme, that is the weight loss drug theme. So kindly log into that as well. You will get a lot of information on the future of this GLP one industry. So thank you, and have a happy evening. Thank you.